Voice of Indonesia.
Mr.
Yes,
David.
hello.
Okay, nice to hear your voice, Mr. David. So, where are you right now, Mr. David?
I'm currently in the Grand Hyatt Hotel in Bali, in wonderful country of Indonesia.
Okay, nice to hear that. Actually, based on the information I have got from the Embassy Australia in Jakarta, your coming is regarding with National Aborigins and Islanders Day Observance Committee. So, what is it about, David?
What it's about is a celebration of Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander culture, 1 week of the year, where we get together and have a number of events right across the country where we can celebrate our culture, celebrate who we are, what we're about, and the stories and richness of culture that we have. So we do that every day of the year, but it's officially recognised in the first week of July every year. And this year I've had the good fortune of the invitation of the wonderful people at the Australian Embassy in Jakarta to take part in a number of events right across your beautiful country here and share with you all some of our unique cultures from back home in Australia.
Mm-hmm. Okay, well, after several days in Indonesia, how do you see the response of Indonesian people towards the beauty and of culture, David?
Oh, look, I think there's a real mutual understanding, particularly from a cultural point of view, because who we are and what we do as a business, as an organisation, is around communicating culture, working with organisations to help, I guess, where we put a cultural lens across, a creative project in order to tell that story. And the way it cuts through to an audience. So one of the examples that I used was the Indonesia is hosting the G20 in this year, 2022, and shared during the presentation how the story of that particular design has cultural elements and refers to a variety of different aspects of Indonesian culture. Back in 2014, I had the good pleasure to work, with an amazing team to help develop the G20 logo for Australia when we held it back in 2014. So to put those two cultural elements, you're designing for a program that's really, I guess, elevating and putting our cultures on the world, Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander culture and Indonesian culture, and really sharing in how we go about doing that.
So it is regarding with, I can say, cultural exchange, Mr. David.
Absolutely, which has been really great and really well received.
So actually, how important the preservation of culture based on your perspective, Mr. David, regarding with the bilateral relation between Indonesia and Australia?
Look, it's very important because culture, story and language is culture, right? And if we don't preserve that, if we don't celebrate, if we don't allow that to be connected with wider Australia and the world, it simply gets lost. We are the oldest continuing culture in the world, and that's something to be celebrated over 65,000 years. And I guess as a nation of many nations in Australia, we have a responsibility to ensure that our culture is passed through to that next generation. And we help it, I guess, from a creative point of view and help preserving that culture.
Well, Mr. David, I'm really interested in knowing more about you are also as musician and designer. What I mean in this case, if I can say Australian cultures and Indonesian cultures, if they are mixed together, actually, what kind of performance that can be done based on your perspective, Mr. David?
Well, look, I think music and dance is a universal language. I'm slowly, learning more of the various dialects of Indonesian languages while I'm here. But you can be sure that when you have music, Aboriginal music, and Indonesian dance together, or Balinese dance, it's something that is going to be very unique, and that's something we'll be demonstrating tomorrow.
Mm-hmm. So it is also related to, I can say, the origin, I can say, like musical instrument, like I can say like Didgeridoo.
Didgeridoo, that's correct.
Yes, I believe that all Aborigin people can play that.
Well, no, not all Aboriginal people. It's only coming from one section of the country, but very much like in Indonesia, there's some customs that exist in one part of the country, but not in others. It's very similar to Australia. So it's not widely recognised right across the country, but I guess it's widely understood internationally as I guess a sound of Australia, a traditional sound from Australia.
Okay, so you're coming here is visiting some countries, some cities in Indonesia. What cities are there?
So I've spent 3 nights in 3 days in Jakarta and 1 day in Bandung, and I'll be here in Bali for 3 days, and it's been a great trip so far.
So Bali is the last city for your visit?
It is, and I have many friends and family who have travelled to Bali over the years as tourists, and it's something that I've fortunately been able to do myself.
So
I've enjoyed it so far.
What have you learned? Started from maybe Jakarta, Bandung, and Bali, because these cities have different cultures. So what have you learned from the city of your visit?
I've learned that you have a beautiful country here, beautiful people, very welcoming, very opening, and very, I guess, from a cultural level, really engaging with wanting to learn, more about, my culture and where I'm from. So you think about this cultural exchange. That's probably been the biggest take home from me. But also, equally, is the food. It's been amazing experiencing some of the foods here, which is great, and some of the you got some beautiful architecture here, which I can see is very different between different provinces from obviously East Java, where we were this morning, in Bandung, and even to Jakarta, and then coming here this afternoon. It's been I really love the craftsmanship in some of the wood, in the buildings here, and the limited buildings that I've seen here so far. So I'm sure I'll be checking that out a little bit more over the next coming days.
Well, during your, I can say, this is also kind of vacation, I think, because you visit 3 cities in Indonesia. This is really interesting for me to ask you about. I mean, did you meet, or do you have such, I can say, like a special meeting with like such academicians or Indonesian university students, so that you are able to share about your program, so that Indonesian people can know about this?
Yes, certainly. So we've got an event tomorrow at the Balinese Arts Festival and Arts Institute. Sorry, so that's tomorrow morning with something on. I believe it's Saturday. Is that a public event? There's
Potato Head.
Yeah, Potato Head on Saturday. So very much looking forward to that.
Well, during your trip, maybe 1 or 2 words. Do you know about Indonesian language? The word, maybe 1 or 2. During
Sama-sama?
Oh, great. Sama-sama. So because of this, do you have any maybe willingness or intention so that you would like to learn the Indonesian language maybe?
Yeah, and look, I learned some of the Sundanese language yesterday, which was great. Hearing the different dialects that exist. But I think what's amazing is if I was going to learn Indonesian language, I believe there's over 500 recognised languages from the Indonesian government. So that's a lot of languages to learn in my short time here.
Well, Mr. David, if I can say with my pleasure, really, we feel happy of your coming to some cities in Indonesia. If this is related to, I can say, the building or developing bilateral cooperation between Indonesia and Australia. So actually, what kind of opportunities that can be built based on your coming, like showing and also sharing about the program such this?
I think one of the unique things is sharing the sound of the didgeridoo for Indonesian people, many of whom may not have heard that before, and they may be intrigued. They might enjoy that. They might be embracing of that, and that's really representing our great country. So when somebody is doing something else from Australia, they can say, hey, I heard this really interesting didgeridoo, and I really loved it, and it's a really nice introduction to whatever maybe happening, I guess, in that exchange that way.
Okay. Well, are you already yourself from Aborigin people to visit Indonesia from this program as the invitation from the Embassy of Australia? The only one?
Yes. So I've my heritage is from a place about 3 hours north of Brisbane. That's my grandmother's country in Waka Waka country, and we're made up of 300 to 400 different language groups right across Australia, and my language group Waka Waka is just one of many.
Well, if I'm not mistaken, you said before about that this program is annual program. Yeah, every year the program. I mean, the Australian Embassy in Jakarta always invite one Aborigin man to visit Indonesia. Is it as annual year? I mean, in this case, next year that means there will be new program as the same program to invite the Aborigin man to come to Indonesia.
Well, every year when NAIDOC is celebrated, the Australian embassies right across the world are really, great at inviting, special guests from Australia. So, I just had the great privilege of doing that this time and sharing, my culture with the beautiful people of Indonesia. And so hopefully next year, there may be somebody else, or who knows. But I guess ultimately, it's a really nice thing to be able to be here and share that.
Okay. Well, Mr. David, not only I myself, but also many Indonesian people, and also many our listeners in many countries would like to know about how to play the Didgeridoo. Do you bring it? Mm-hmm. Can you play it?
I've actually got it packed away in a suitcase at the moment.
You bring it. Can you please try to show it to us so that we are really happy.
If you bear with me for 90 seconds, I'll be able to get that for you.
Yes, okay. Yeah, listeners, we are still waiting, and David William still trying to show about his cultural musical instrument, namely the Didgeridoo, and he will perform to us listeners, and we would like to see directly about his very great performance. Now let's hear, listeners. He would like to play.
Ready? Here we go.
Okay, we are looking at. Right. Nice, fantastic. Very fantastic, Mr. David. You played that. So really, I like to hear that instrument, musical instrument. Actually, well, my question is can it only played by, I can say, adult people?
So in many instances, yes, it's a men's instrument, men's business, and there's many things within our culture that are men's business and women's business. There's things that women can do that men can't do, and as Didgeridoo, that's or Yidaki, that's one of the things that only men can do.
Okay. So the last question, Mr. David, do you have some expectation, your hope for your coming to Indonesia?
Oh, look, I think it's about sharing our culture over here, so people can learn about the uniqueness of Australian Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander culture, but also to understand there is that connection between the two nations, both traditionally, I guess, and also in a contemporary 21st century, land that we live in. So really take that appreciation and that cultural exchange, and let's celebrate that all together.
Okay. Okay, thank you, Mr. David, for your time, your attention to have such special interview with us at the Voice of Indonesia in Jakarta. Hopefully your holiday, your trip is really nice and can be wonderful and meaningful for you during Indonesia.
I will definitely be back for a proper holiday. Don't you worry about that.
Okay, have a nice day. Bye-bye.
You too. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Okay, well, listener, that's our interview with David Williams as Australian musician and designer, and he's also as an Aboriginal man who has a special invitation from the Embassy of Australia in Jakarta to come to Indonesia as National Aborigines and Islanders Day Observance Committee.